All right, how does that look? Brandon, we're good. Looks great.
Looks like it's supposed to.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started. Really excited. And again, thank you all so much for being on time. We're excited for this time around. The good thing is we just finished a proposals conference for institutions. We said, you know what, you can't forget about the community. So now we're moving on to our community sector and just excited again to have you all. So just a few house rules. Please mute yourselves until the end. We will have a question and answer at the end. Myself and my colleagues will do our best to go ahead and answer those questions for you. Also, too, we want to know who's on. So if you can, type your name and your organization. If you can go ahead and type that in the chat, that would be great. We know some of you may be individuals, some may be organizations, but please type your name and the org that you're representing in the chat. Also, too, at the end, when we get to the question and answer, we do ask that you utilize the raise hand function. As much as we want you guys to ask your questions, we want to do it in a respectful way. So go ahead and use that function once we get to that part of the presentation. And I'm looking at the chat. I see people typing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to get started. All right, so this is our team right here. Of course, we're led by Kristen Sakota. She's our Director, Department of Arts and Culture. Many of you probably have worked with Kristen before, but she has over 25 years of experience as an art executive and attorney, as a performing artist herself, spanning from public policy, legislation, philanthropy, DEI, arts administration, law. And I know she came from New York. So everyone from New York, hey, congrats, welcome. This is our other team right here. We have Heather, who's our chief deputy, Brandon, our administrative deputy, Denise, myself, Larry Orts. Good to meet you all again. Christopher Wilkinson, he's our senior program associate, Greg Johnson, program associate, and Irina. And the good thing about Irina, I'm glad Irina's here. She will assist with answering the questions because Irina has been with us for years working in the community sector. So thank you for your work, Miss Irina. All right, so this is just a little bit about the purpose of this. If we can have everyone on mute, I think Mr. Daniel Ramos, there you go. If you could, thank you. All right, so our purpose. So LA Arts and County, so we have issued a request for proposal to solicit for contract with organizations that can provide arts instruction for youth in communities and professional development services for adults supporting youth and communities. Now let's go back. If you look at the highlighted section, it's in blue. It says contract with organizations. Now, we're not here to deter anyone from applying as an individual. Based on the deliverables and based on the events and everything that we're asking from you all, we are requesting from an organization because the infrastructure is there. So again, if you are an individual, please apply. We're not discouraging you, but the way that the program is laid out, it is laid out for organizations with the infrastructure. All right, our program overview to provide arts instruction in various disciplines. Many of us on the call of artists, right? So we know what those disciplines are. You're talking about creative writing, dance, music, spoken word, diversion services, which we're very proud of, and what we call TPI, Trauma Prevention Initiative Services. Right now, currently, we're providing work and if you are awarded a contract, work with LA County operated community parks, community centers, and continuation high schools. And just to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the work that we provide, I'll give you a few examples of our parks. We have Belvedere, and some of you probably live near some of these parks, so you've probably seen LA County signage everywhere. City Terrace, East Rancho Dominguez Park, Lenox, Loma Alta, Mona Park, Pamela Park, San Angelo Park, Sorensen Park. We also work with, many of you may have seen Parks After Dark, our spot with our Parks After Dark, Irvin Magic Johnson, Jackie Robinson, Valverde Park, Valleydale Park, and those are some just to name a few. We've been partnering with probation since 2015, which is where our funding comes from. With this contract, we're looking for year-round and seasonal programming through our community-based arts organization. So our funds come from what we call JJCPA, Juvenile Crime Prevention Act, Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Act, JJRBG, and it all goes through and approved by the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Committee, the JJCC, and our board. All right, so these are our program outcomes. Our first goal to sustain and expand year-round arts instruction. So our first goal is to sustain and expand year-round arts instruction to serve all youth in county-operated facilities by providing continuous art instruction. So we aim to foster creativity, self-expression, and personal growth among these youth. We believe that consistent access to arts programming can significantly enhance their academic and social economic development and social emotional development. Our second goal, arts instruction promotes interdisciplinary, project-based learning that extends beyond the classroom setting. This approach not only enriches the learning experience, but also helps students develop critical thinking and real-world skills. By integrating arts into various subjects and activities, we create an educational experience that supports holistic development. Our third goal is to provide professional development for county staff. Very important, as we know things are constantly evolving, including those from our Parks and Rec, our staff from community centers, and continuation schools. This training is designed to build awareness and skills for working from an arts-based, trauma-informed perspective, understanding that the therapeutic benefits of the arts is crucial for addressing trauma and supporting the overall well-being of the youth we serve. So the goal is to offer comprehensive training programs, workshops, and ongoing support to ensure staff are equipped to implement these practices effectively. And our last goal is we aim to implement healing-centered art-based data-informed strategies and increase individual resiliency. These strategies are grounded in research and tailored to meet the specific needs of our youth. By focusing on healing and resilience, we hope to create a positive impact that extends beyond the individual to their families and communities, utilize data to continuously refine our approach and measure the effectiveness of our interventions. All right, so these are the minimum qualifications. I believe it may have gone out in the communication, that email that you guys received. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap. So we're looking for, in order for you to qualify, it's a minimum of 5 years of experience in the last 8 years conducting, overseeing, or coordinating. And this is arts instruction for youth or professional development for adults supporting youth. And that's if applicable. Now we'll go more into detail later about that. Previous experience providing arts instruction in county-operated parks, community centers, school academic institutions, or other similar sites within the last 5 years. Well, the good thing is you guys have already sufficed number 3, attendance or attestation of viewing the mandatory virtual proposals conference. So congratulations to you all. You don't have to worry about number 3. And number 4, if the proposal's compliance within county contract has been reviewed by the auditor controller in the last 10 years, no unresolved question costs over $1,000 that remain unpaid. Well, the good news is no one on this call, I'm sure, has to worry about that, but we put it there just in case. All right, so there are 2 different types of proposed material. We're going to go into both, part 1, part 2. Part 1 are services. That's a maximum of 1,000 points. And then we're going to go over the required forms. All right. So number 1, statement of interest. Provide a statement of interest that outlines how your request for proposal, or RFP, aligns with the organization's core services as well as their vision, mission, goals of the organization. Many of you guys, I think this is pretty standard. you guys should have no problem with this. And the good thing about this is only a maximum of 2 pages. That's all we asked, or a maximum of 2 pages. Number two, background experience. That is worth 200 points. Now let's go back. Number one is worth 100 points. Number two is now worth 200 points. So you want to provide a summary of background information to demonstrate that the proposer meets the minimum requirements. So I want you guys to think about this. This is a part in your RFP where you can highlight the organization's extensive experience in delivering arts education and related services. You may want to mention key points and programs that demonstrate your expertise in visual arts, media arts, arts technology, any type of art form. This is a good point also too to talk about your qualified team. Introduce your team members who will be involved in the project and emphasize their qualifications and experience. You may want to mention any relevant certifications, awards, or recognitions received by your org or your team members. The second sentence, describe how the proposal's background align with the statement of work. So this is a section where you guys can provide examples of past projects that align with the scope of work and the requirements. You may want to share success stories, case studies from previous projects that are similar in scope and objectives to the current RFP. You may want to highlight measurable outcomes and the impact of these projects. Also, too, your organizational capacity. Discuss how your organizational capacity to handle those proposed projects. You might want to include staff, resources, and your infrastructure. You even may want to mention, which is very important, any partnerships or collaborations that enhance your organization's ability to deliver the required service. Number two, through maximum 3 pages. So I know we have some overachievers. You may want to write 10, but all we ask is just 3. All right, number 3, proposal's approach to providing required services. This is now worth 300 points. How will the contract work requirement be met? Now let's look at the first one, deliver healing-centered instruction. This is where you really want to explain the methods, how the methods are tailored to foster both your academic and your social emotional growth. This is a great point where you may want to detail how arts instruction is integrated into your overall educational curriculum. You may want to explain a collaboration that you have with schools and community organizations to ensure seamless integration. The second point, culturally responsive arts instruction. This is a point where you may want to outline the criteria for selecting your teaching artists, emphasizing cultural competencies. How do you select your teaching artists? What is the process? You may want to discuss ongoing training and support that you provide to your teaching artists to maintain a high standard. As we know, cultures change with the young folk, we know every 6 months, it could be a year. So how are you providing ongoing training to make sure that your teaching artists are relevant? You may want to share examples of culturally responsive lesson plans and how they engage in diverse student populations. This is a good point to describe initiatives to involve the community and gather feedback to continuously improve the program. And you may want to highlight, again, partnerships with local cultural organizations and their artists. The third point, training and professional development. This is very important. Detail the training programs related to artist safety and mental health. Sometimes our people may feel they're overworked. What type of programs are you providing? Especially with artist safety. Now we know we have this idea that our communities are safe, but you guys know in certain communities we may have to take extra precautions. So how do you provide those programs to your staff so they ensure internally that they are safe? You may want to explain the importance of these training sessions and how they support the overall well-being of the artist. This is a point in your RFP where you can provide an example of a training module. What does your module look like? How do you train your staff and the outcomes of these programs? Those in the past that have utilized these training modules, what are the outcomes? Show that data. We want to hear that. You also may want to describe additional professional development opportunities for your teaching artists. This is professional development opportunities outside of you all. You know how, you know, some of us, we may go to another state, another city, and attend some type of workshop, some type of conference to enhance not only our teaching artists, but ourselves. We want to hear that. Explain how these opportunities help artists grow in their practice and stay updated with the latest educational strategies. And lastly, evaluation of services. So this is a great time to explain the tools used to evaluate the effectiveness of the arts program. Describe both your quantitative and qualitative metrics used to measure academic and social emotional outcomes. You may want to share feedback, how your feedback is collected from students, from the youth. Maybe some of you guys may work with some of the staff and the community members. How do you guys collect that feedback? Some of you guys may conduct a pre-survey, a mid, and a post-survey. How do you collect that data? Some of you may want to outsource if you don't have the capacity to some of that data, you know, or you guys may have a teaching artist that has the experience with the data. You also may want to describe how the evaluation results are used to make continuous improvement to the program. And you may want to highlight any strategies that allow the program to remain responsive to the needs of the youth and the community. And that is a maximum of 4 pages. When we say 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, just as a reminder, please submit it in a PDF form. That's easier. It's easier for our system to upload. It makes life so much better. And 2, we want to ease you guys' mind to know if it's in a Word doc, any other doc, that none of your documents have been tampered with. All right, here is optional. Now, this is optional because you don't have to do it, but there may be some orgs who just want to focus on professional development. So professional development for adults supporting youth in communities is optional and only required for proposals interested in providing the professional development services. So we're looking at delivering professional development to teaching artists, parks and rec staff, mental health professionals, and other county community staff, and evaluate the services provided, including a description of evaluation tools and practices. All right, we're almost there. Number 4, work samples. You know, we need to know, you guys have the experience. We need curriculum. What does your curriculum look like? You know, a curriculum that you may have used 2 years ago, is it relevant today with this new generation coming to the parks? We need 3 samples of your curriculum describing your learning goals, the materials or equipment used. That's very important about the equipment that's being used. I remember when we conducted the institutions, it's totally different than communities because there's only so much equipment you can bring in. But the good news with you all, there's no limitations. But what type of equipment are you going to bring to keep the youth engaged? You have to think about that. And we want to know, what type of equipment are you using? Artistic samples. Provide up to 3 artistic work produced by the youth in the community settings that demonstrate artistic quality and expression. Some of you guys have been doing this work. We want to see some of your past young folk. What have they done? That can be writing. It could be a video, art sample, anything. We want to see 3 examples. And professional development services. Now, this is optional. If you guys have done the professional development services, go ahead and submit it. Provide up to 3 curriculum samples describing objectives or learning goals and materials, and again, equipment being used. All right, let's move on to number 5. And this is 3 pages max. This is worth 150 points. Number 4 is worth 150 points, same as number 5. Describe how the proposal's administrative capacity will support the delivery of services, outlining the scope of work. All right, so address operational needs. So in this section, I want you to think about this. You describe the organizational structure and the roles responsible for managing the operational needs. You also want to emphasize the use of advanced project management tools and systems used to streamline your operation. You know, your scheduling coordinating. This is a great opportunity for us, for you all to explain the process in place for effective scheduling of classes, workshop, and other activity. Some of y'all may use Outlook. You may use a Google Calendar. What do you use to schedule your classes and workshops? We want to know that. What's your software? Highlight the use of scheduling software and again, and coordination tools to ensure smooth operations. Reporting and service tracking. You can discuss the systems you use for accurate and timely reporting of project progress and outcomes. You may also want to describe how service tracking mechanisms are implemented to monitor the delivery of services and ensure compliance with our scope of work. Now, this is very important. Budget tracking. Outline the financial management systems used to track budgets, manage expenses, and ensure fiscal responsibility. This is a great time to really talk about the software that you're using. As we all know, the hardest barrier that we face with nonprofit work or just organizations in general is really managing the money, right? Trying to find that program that really satisfies everyone's taste in the org and they're streamlined and easy enough for everyone to use. So we want to know that. What system do you use to track that? You may even want to highlight the process for regular budget reviews and adjustments to stay within financial parameters. You all know with contracts, you're going to have a certain amount that you're going to be awarded. How are you going to stay within that amount? How do you organize to make sure you have the right classes? If a community site may request more programming, how do you guys keep track of that? Now, here at the county, we keep track, but how do you keep track? How do you have this self-sustained program in place? We want to know that. And lastly, invoice submission and payments. Now, we're going to talk about invoices later on, but you probably want to talk about, detail the procedures for your timely invoice submission and process. Again, if you guys know you're teaching 2 classes a week and you know when the invoices are due, our strong recommendation is prep the invoices in advance. And if anything changes, guess what? You have the invoices already done for the entire year. You just go back and make revisions. It takes pressure off of you, off of your staff, off of your teaching artists. It takes so much pressure as we move forward. You may also want to explain the payment system in place to ensure teaching artists and staff are compensated properly. What type of payment system do you use? Many orgs use different systems. Next, recruitment and retaining qualified staff. This is a great time for you guys to describe the recruitment strategies used to attract qualified teaching artists, arts coordinators, and project management staff. Now, we'll get into arts coordinator and project management staff later. But how do you guys recruit your teaching artists? When you're in the community setting, you want teaching artists that are diverse, that have experience with diversity, that may be placed in a site that may be around people that don't look like them. Can they still be effective to those young people that are thirsty for that knowledge? How do you guys decipher? How do you vet your teaching artists? You also want to highlight partnerships with educational institutions, art organizations, and professional networks to source top talent. Your selection process. We want to know your rigorous selection process, interviews, portfolio reviews, reference checks to ensure candidates meet high standards of excellence. Also, too, retention and professional development. This is a great time to discuss the organizational commitment to staff retention through competitive compensation, benefits, professional development opportunities. Great time to highlight ongoing training programs, mentorship, career advancement pathways. You also may want to emphasize the creation of supportive and inclusion work environment that fosters collaboration, creativity, and job satisfaction. And you can also share examples of team building activities, recognition programs, and employee wellness initiatives. And again, that is a max of 3 pages. And lastly, number 6, proposals quality control plan. This is worth 100 points. Maintain a comprehensive quality control that demonstrates how to monitor the following activities. All right, youth engagement strategy. Think about it. How do you explain how the organization's management youth engagement? How do you manage that? How do you measure it? We all know attendance rates. You take attendance, participation levels. How do you measure that? And qualitative feedback. Again, is that pre-survey? Is that mid? Is that post? It's a great way to talk about it. You also want to highlight regular check-ins, mental health support, and surveys to access and address well-being concerns. Number two, teaching artist effectiveness. Hey, it's a great time to discuss the performance metrics used to evaluate the effectiveness of your teaching artists. That could be surveys. It could be surveys to the Parks and Rec staff, the community staff, maybe the youth, student progress, engagement levels. Maybe some of you guys may want to go and sit and observe and just see if, if the students are engaged, if they are participating, and feedback again from the staff and the young folk. You also may want to explain the use of observation protocols, peer reviews, and performance appraisals. You may also want to talk about and describe ongoing professional development programs. You're going to hear that a lot here, professional development, and we harp on that because we want our orgs and our teaching artists to stay current so we can pretty much kind of, guarantee participation from our young people. Highlight the use again of workshops, training sessions, and mentoring programs. Teaching artist safety. Again, we're dealing with the community. You're at public settings. So how are you going to outline? It's a great way to talk about how to outline safety protocols and guidelines in place to ensure physical and emotional safety of teaching artists. You can discuss the importance of safe working environment and measurements taken to prevent harassment, injury, and of course, burnout. You can also explain the safety of the safety training programs provided to the teaching artists, including emergency procedures, mental health first aid, conflict resolution. And again, you're dealing with youth in the communities. It'd be great, if a youth, God forbid, may pass out. Is your teaching artist ready for that? Do they have the certification? Do they know what to do? Do they have a directory of numbers to call? Yeah, we know 911, but what about emergency contacts? Any other type of resources? And you also may want to highlight regular safety drills, update safety protocols on feedback and incident reports. And lastly, your administrative capacity. You may want to describe the administrative system and process used to manage and oversee program operations. You could also highlight the roles and responsibilities of administrative staff in maintaining compliance with the contract requirements. You can also explain how the organization monitors compliance with contract requirements, including regular audits, reviews, report mechanisms. As we all know, the audits are very important. You may have a system in place where you may audit your teaching artists, audit your fiscal department, maybe once a month, maybe every other month. We want to know about that system. And finally, discuss the use of compliance checklists, internal audits again, and external evaluations. And that is worth 100 points with 3 pages maximum. All right, here is number 2. This is very simple. It's an easy form to fill out. That you'll see that form once you guys register in SurveyMonkey, and we'll go over that. But Form 1 is the attestation of compliance. Form 2, proposal, debarment, history, and list of terminated contracts. And Form 3 is the pending litigation and judgments. All righty. So here is our summary. So statement of interest, 100 points. Background and experience, 200. Approach to providing required services, 300. Sound like I'm on Jeopardy, right? 100, 200. Work samples, 150. Administrative capacity, 150. Quality control plan, 100. Now, with the compliance and litigation review, there is a maximum possible 60-point deduction. Terminated contract, you can possibly lose 40 points, and proposals, litigation, and judgments, possible 20 points. All righty. So this is what we call SurveyMonkey, or what some may say is SM Apply. So let me get my screen together so I can share with you all. And as I'm doing that, hopefully you guys are hanging in there with me. Again, thank you all for coming. Glad to have you. And let me pull it up. And here we go. Okay, can you all, is everything, Brandon, are we good?
You're good.
All right. So when you log in, you have to create what's called a profile. So that's going to be your name, contact information, email, your DBA. Some of you are using a DBA. You need to set that up first. You click save, and then it'll bring you back here. So you're going to see on your dashboard two different icons. One is the 2024 LA Recovery Grant. That does not apply to you. So remember, let me repeat that. The 2024 LA County Recovery Grant, for the purposes of this, does not apply to you. You want to go to Request for Proposals, Youth and Communities. So when we click More, all right, and you have all the information here. You have all the dates. All it is a recap of the email that you guys received. You have the minimum requirements here. And you want to go, I started this, so it's going to say see my application, but when you guys do it, it's going to say start. Okay, let me click see my application. And here we go. So you have all of these sections here: eligibility and personal information, services, required forms, declaration, and certified submission. So if I click on eligibility, um, here you go. And I do want to give a big shout out to Administrative Deputy, Mr. Brandon Turner. He's the one I've been communicating with, and you guys, he took the time out to set up SurveyMonkey, and he streamlined it to make it so easy, because we did take your feedback from years ago, and I know some people had technical difficulties, and people get a little nervous with SM Apply, but now the process is seamless. So thank you, Brandon, for that. So this is very simple. Is the proposal community-based within the minimum of 5 years? Yes. Does the proposal have experience? Yes. Number 3 is either yes or no. Number 4 is a yes or no. And again, you go to the primary contact. I guess I can just go ahead and just put something in. Uh-oh, let's put no. Organization name, why not? Larry Orridge Company. Sounds good to me. I'm just throwing in a format, and make sure your format is correct. And if you have a website, please put your website. We'll mark as complete. And then, guys, you just keep going. You see a check mark that indicates that you completed that section, and then you go over to the left column. You click, and here is where you upload. Remember in the presentation, I talked about 2-page max, 3-page max, 4-page max. This is where you upload. And again, even though it says a doc, if you guys cannot convert it over to a PDF, that's okay. So if all you have is Microsoft Office, a doc format, that is fine. But these are the formats that we do accept. But I'm sure most of you will upload a PDF file. And guess what, guys? This is it. It's that simple. And you go through each one, and at the end, you click submit, and you should have all check marks, and then you know that you successfully submitted. And that is it. It's that simple. It's that easy. And it, again, it is very seamless and it is streamlined. And from you all previously, thank you for your feedback, because we have taken it in and of course made this so easy for you guys. All righty, let me stop sharing. And let me get back to my presentation. 1 second. All right, and that was SurveyMonkey. Simple, right? Painless, don't worry, but again, we'll go over the email that you'll send just in case you have any technical difficulties. All right, so there are a few program changes, and we have to highlight this because, again, from years ago, some of the programming was different compared to now, but we'll go more in detail later on. But the first change is establish a reliable system for scheduling invoices, payment, monitoring, and reporting. The second is streamlining the rate. because we had so many rates for a teaching artist, rates for professional development. And we're like, let's just streamline this. It makes it easy for LA County and it makes it easy for the org. Provide more financial resources to deliver high quality services and manage administration. And lastly, ensure compliance with state, local regulations and county policies. All right, so these are some of the changes. We added 2 roles that we will support, meaning if you're awarded a contract, these 2 different roles will be built into actual contract, the amount of the contract. So let's talk about the first role, the arts coordinator. So that person is to provide on-site and support for teaching artists. Now it's at 100 bucks an hour. That is the rate for the arts coordinator. Also to that arts coordinator, and think about it, because I know you guys will, okay, the arts coordinator, what exactly will they do? So again, they're going to support with the setup, the breakdown, the documentation, the youth engagement. So remember, they're going to be in the classroom with the teaching artists. And again, with operational support, youth engagement, and they're going to be kind of like the middleman with your org and the community staff, the Parks and Rec staff, or the community the community staff as well. They also help with safety monitoring. So in environments like community centers, safety, again, we talked about safety protocols. Safety is paramount. So the coordinator monitors safety during the arts activity. They may address any concerns promptly and secure an environment for all participants. They can also help with reporting and accountability, by providing documented activities and monitoring progress. Remember, we talked about all that data. You may want to get that data. The teaching artist is teaching. They don't have the time to conduct the data. Let them teach. Here's where the arts coordinator come in. And this helps in demonstrating the impact of arts program and justifying its continuation or expansion. Now, the project manager. So the project manager oversees the scope of work, timelines, budgets, and ensure compliance with LA County contractual obligations. Their insight helps in maintaining an accountability and achieving project goals on time and within budget. They also help with staff and coordinator management, managing and scheduling staff, teaching artists and arts coordinators, as we all know, is crucial for a smooth operation. So the project manager will pretty much focus on the resource allocation, ensuring that the right personnel are available for each program session. This role helps in avoiding schedule conflicts and ensures consistent program delivery. They also help with training and support. They ensure that the staff and teaching artists receive training and support. As we all know, it's essential for delivering high quality services. They also coordinate training sessions on safety protocols, curriculum development, data collection methods, and we all know this empowers the team members with the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively engage and educate youth participants. They will also help with supervision, and technical support. So the project manager supervises staff and provides technical support, program support. This includes overseeing, again, safety protocols to maintain a secure environment, contributing to curriculum development to enhance program content, and facilitating data collection for program evaluation and improvement. So their role enhances the overall quality and impact of the programs delivered. So when you think about of course, the arts coordinator, project manager. Arts coordinator is pretty much in the classroom, on the site, and the project manager is kind of, the one at the office overseeing the whole project. They may come on the site sometimes, but just think of it as terms as that, because I know when we created, we said we want to make sure, that the orgs don't get the arts coordinator and the project manager mixed up. So always think the arts coordinator is on site and the project manager is pretty much in the office. Also, too, with the project manager, last point, they ensure that the invoices and the financial management is intact. They ensure the invoices are submitted on time, which we'll talk about on the next slide. As we all know, that is very crucial because we have bigger orgs and smaller orgs. So we all know what's the two big words, cash flow. That's very important, right? Because we have bigger orgs who have no problem with cash flow. But then you have some of those smaller orgs who need, when they submit the invoices, they need to be compensated immediately. Well, what we ask in return is submit the invoices on time so we can compensate you on time. That is very important. And this is where the project manager comes in. All right, so let's talk about it. So here are the three line items. The project manager, $250 a session. And remember, a session could be an hour, 90 minutes, up to 3 hours. Teaching artist is $175 an hour. Previously, it was $100. So congratulations, everyone. You got a $75 raise. So teaching artist, $175 an hour, and the arts coordinator, $100 an hour. And of course, you have that 15% indirect cost rate to cover general operation costs and administrative expenses. Here's a very important change that we're very proud of. We'd like to introduce to you all Connect Team. And in the past, we utilized Microsoft Excel, and I'm sure that's everyone's favorite software, Excel, right? All the formulas. Some people are experts and some people are like, oh, I just want to stay away from it. Well, here's the beauty. So with Connect Teams, we get the information live. So as soon as the sessions are over, your teaching artists can go on an app and they can tell us how many students were there. Did they complete the class? What were the times? Once they click submit, my team, our admin team, we get the data immediately. So that helps us out with cross-referencing documents. So when you guys submit your invoices, we can just go back over to Connect Teams, just again to cross-reference to make sure the numbers are accurate. Connect Teams is easy, is simple. However, we do recommend, in the past, we use something called participation logs. And those participation logs were on Excel. And what the teaching artists had to do every time a student showed up, they would either put a check mark or they put a number one. So that way they can count it. We still recommend you guys keep the participation log. As we all know, apps update, apps get disrupted. So that way you have a plan B. But Connect Teams is a simple and easy way to streamline our process. And lastly, administrative changes. So remember, we talked about the role of the project manager with those invoices. In the past, invoices were due on a quarterly basis every 3 months. Well, now we're changing it to a monthly base. A good practice is we recommend by the first of every month, go ahead and submit it. Submit it. Remember earlier I said, pre-plan the invoices. If you know the rate, you're teaching 2 days a week for an hour session, have your invoices done for the whole year. It's that easy. You know what? And then afterwards, if there's any changes, you go back and you revise it. It saves you time, your teaching artist time, and it makes your life a lot easier. Because adjusting from a quarterly to a monthly, that's a big adjustment. So if you pre-plan, you pre-prep those invoices, it should make the process seamless. We also require an additional sexual misconduct insurance, and we require all personnel to be employees, and this is for insurance purposes, to be employees of the applicant's organization. And here are some key dates. So again, congrats. You all made it through the Mandatory Proposals Conference, which is today. Written questions. Some of you all will have questions. You're going to ask questions here, and you may go back later on and say, you know what? I should have asked that question. We're going to supply you with an email address and you'll submit the questions there. Now, we can't reply to you individually because we have to practice equity and inclusion, of course, diversity and all that other good stuff, right? The DEI and all that stuff. But what we do is all the questions, you'll submit it on the site. And we'll post them, as you see, the next item, questions and answers released on the 21st. So that way, everyone gets to see all the questions and they see all the answers. And again, we can't answer it individually because we don't want to show any type of favoritism. So again, written questions are due at 5 on the 14th. We will post them on the website on the 21st. Your proposals Remember, all the minimum requirements that I went over is due on the 28th. Now, the 5 p.m. is a hard cutoff. Again, 5 p.m. and that's Pacific time, not Eastern, not Central. It is a hard cutoff. So please set your clocks if you are traveling, especially if if you're in the South or if you're on the East Coast. Please set your clock accordingly because the system that we went over, SurveyMonkey Apply, will cut off at 5. So please remember that 5 p.m., 5 p.m., 5 p.m. We anticipate notifying the proposals around September 25th, and we're looking at services starting around November 1st. And the last call, this is part of the email that you guys have been receiving. Again, Wednesday, August 28th, that hard cutoff at 5 p.m. At Pacific time. And again, thank you all so much for definitely attending this. You guys have met one of the minimum requirement. Again, congratulations. So remember, you want to have your questions submitted by 5 p.m. And here's the email address. We will put that email address in the chat. Probably Brandon or Irina, if you can put the email address in the chat, I will definitely appreciate it. But it's udev@arts.lacounty.gov. And again, we cannot answer your questions individually. We will put those questions, we will gather all those questions, we will answer them and post them on the site for everyone to view. And you made it. That is it of the presentation. And now this is our turn to hear from you. Question and answer. And let me go ahead and stop share.
And Larry, we've already got some in the chat, so we can start working through them.
Okay, go ahead.
So Rebecca asks, can the arts coordinator and project manager be the same person? I'll jump on this one.
Please.
Because I think it's going to get repeated a bunch here. And we understand that organizations, small organizations and organizations run themselves entirely different. If your organization is able to fulfill the responsibilities of both the arts coordinator and the project manager within one person, then yes, that is allowable. I saw a related question about how does that get paid out? So I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to botch the name, Manon. And the responsibilities are carried out by more than 2 people. Do we still invoice at the 2 at 250 and 100? Yes, you'll be able to invoice them as long as the services are completed. You'll be able to invoice at those rates. I think another clarification that I want to make, and this is included in Exhibit C, the fee schedule. And I'll read it here from the fee schedule. The above rates are what will be paid by Arts and Culture to contractors for these services delivered. These rates do not dictate the wages contractors will pay their employees, and each contractor must determine their own wage schedules and employment policies. Below, Arts and Culture has provided a rationale for these rates, which are based on market rates, cost of living in the LA region, and the value of providing family-sustaining wages as informed by the Teaching Artist Guild's pay rate calculator. So if you check out Exhibit C, you'll be able to see that. And part of why we say this is because each organization has different needs, different strengths, different employees, different experience. So how organizations pay their employees is between the organization and their employee. The agreement that between the county and your organization is, are you delivering the services? If the services are delivered, we will pay you that rate for these. So I hope that clears up that a little bit. We can get a copy of the presentation. Let's see what else. Bonnie asks, Charles asks, what is the age range we are to target? Irina or Larry?
Irina, what do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead and go. So typically I would say that we're somewhere in the TAY range, but I would expand upon that a bit in the sense that especially within pandemic times and in the parks, I would say that it's pretty typical to to get school age and maybe even a little bit younger, especially if it's an intergenerational group. And then that also kind of becomes young adults as well who might be caregivers or parents or anything of that sort. So I think that being prepared for a large range is definitely important, especially if if you have that in your wheelhouse, so to speak, then emphasizing that in your proposal is always a good idea.
Great. Let's see. In addition to safety precautions that organizations will take, what security measures will be provided at park sites? Irina, this is for you again.
Yeah, great question, Bunny. So I'm just reading it again. I think if we can get like a little bit of an elaboration about like if you're thinking about from the parks, from ourselves in the parks, since we're two distinct departments, I think that's just an important clarification. I'm looking for you. I don't see you on the lots of people.
Security from the park.
So, okay, I guess, yeah, I'm not sure if you're still here, but I guess what I can say is that the parks typically do not necessarily all have security. Some of them, depending on where they are, will have in particular sheriff presence because they might be either next to a sheriff station or there's also a young sheriff's program that takes place at a couple of the sites. In particular, Pamela is one. Belvedere, they're often nearby. Lenox is another one as well. And then also Mona. And Carver for that matter too, which is not an our spot site, but is very, very close by. So that might be the best answer that I can give at the moment, unless yeah, again, if there's elaboration on that question.
Great. And then there's a question regarding geographical placement of accepted partners vendors. Are there options for the location of the programs we will be implementing? If so, how are these locations determined? So there's a matchmaking process that will happen between the parks, the organizations, and us. So working through to make sure that you are, if you're looking for services in Chatsworth, we're going to ask organizations, are they available to deliver services in Chatsworth? So it's a matchmaking as the program rolls out. This is also another question from Bunny that is similar, is what is the funding max for each organization? This will be part of negotiations, contract negotiations if your proposal is accepted and we move to the award stage. And that will be based on capacity and need for us. Let's see, there's a question. Can we project manage and teach? We already addressed that. You can have 2 roles. Can we get a copy of the presentation? Yes, we can do that as part of the addendum. Deborah Brockus, how do we budget and are we assigned to the location and times or do we propose? Again, this is a matchmaking between our department, the parks or the site, community sites, and the organization, but to figure out what programs are going to serve the youth best. So that will be part of the process. And just real quick, the way this will work overall is that there's a blanket contract, we'll award a contract, and then there's a secondary process where site agreements, service agreements are going to be issued for the individual classes. So we can add classes as the contract goes on, and the service agreements will detail the budget for that service agreement, the locations, all of those things. Can you elaborate on professional development services for adults, Larry or Arena?
Yeah.
Yeah,
can-
go ahead. I can add on. Go ahead.
So yeah, within the community sites, I think that it can look a couple different ways. Definitely some of the things that we've had most recently. And I think there's, you know, continuation of interest in those kinds of subjects are providing PD for park staff. Some of these can look like, you know, anything from how they can provide healing-centered arts engagement at the park sites. It can also be, you know, if your organization has experience in providing, you know, different support around de-escalation processes, for example, then that's something that's definitely also been of interest and is very connected to the TPI work, the Trauma Prevention Initiative work. So really, I think there's kind of a gamut of what it might look like. Definitely wellness and you know, general kind of wellness resources. And then maybe one of the last things I would mention too, which speaks directly to one of the current groups, but there's also been, you know, an interest, I think, in you know, making sure that things around consent are broken down in a way that are very like familiar and applicable for all ages. So those are just some of the things, you know, especially I think with like an anti-violence framework. And Larry, if you have anything to add.
I think that was perfect.
Great.
Thanks.
Carmelita asks, when we submitted the RFP for camps and halls, the work samples did not allow for audio or video. Many of our work samples are either audio or video files. Can the county add that capacity to upload those files in the application? We can't change the application at this point, but if you're updating adding a work sample that has a link to those type of things, we can move, people can click through on those. So that's the way to include them. Tanya asks, can services have to begin in November 2024? That's when we're anticipating rolling out the services. And again, that matchmaking will be part of the service rollout. Krithi, I hope that's right, from Building Beats, are the hourly rates maximum for us to apply for, or do we have to pay our employees these rates you shared? So that again goes back to that Exhibit C, where organizations are able to make those decisions for themselves based on their organizational policies, practices. We just hope that you are treating your employees and teaching artists and coordinators fairly as part of that. If our RFPs are accepted, are we responsible for student recruitment, or will LA County Arts and Culture place us at specific sites? Arena.
Yeah, I think that this goes back to, you know, some of the site matching that takes place, which, and I guess it's a good opportunity for us to mention really that, you know, I think we're definitely looking for organizations and folks who are already kind of embedded in the areas that, you know, that you're pitching from essentially, right? So perhaps that is a park or a site that, you know, is already a part of where you do your work rather than, you know, having to commute an hour to a community that maybe, you know, you've never been a part of. I think that that's definitely something that there's emphasis on.
Right, and generally there are already youth in the places that we're assigning sites, so hopefully additional recruitment comes as part of that.
And maybe
They figure out the good things that are happening.
one last little thing that I should say too is I don't want to you know, underemphasize that the sites and, you know, furthermore, the community and youth at sites are also, you know, they're really centered. Their voice is super important. So they're letting people know, like, well, we'd really love to have dance. We're not so into, XYZ at the moment or something like that. So all those are considerations for how the matches are made.
Great. Arena, there's also another question for you. Adrienne, can programs be intergenerational, allowing participation of both youth and adults together in these activities?
Yes, I mean, I think that they definitely can. For the purposes of the JJCPA funds, I would say that it's super important to center that, these are programs for youth. However, I think we also realize, right, that like youth is not a blanket. It doesn't exist right out in a vacuum by itself, right? So these are, people, members of communities that, again, maybe are perhaps like caregivers in their own right, whether it's children or elders. So I think we see that within all the sites. And that's across the board, I would say, from like sites in Compton to sites in Altadena.
Great. A clarification from Tanya, do the services have to begin in November 2024? That's what we're aiming for. If your organization isn't available, is awarded and isn't available to New Year, that's part of the matchmaking and contract negotiation. You would have to bring that to our attention as part of the negotiation process. Lori asks, is more than one organization going to be selected for this RFP? Yes. We're not entirely sure how many contracts are going to go out for this, but there will be, currently I think we have 10 or 12, and at least that many for the next cycle. Lucia Torres says, how many sites will we provide programming in? And do we need to secure a partnership agreement with the site staff before we apply? Arena.
Yeah, so right now there are around 17 sites. What I should emphasize is that does not include any kind of community engagement programming. So when we use the term community engagement, these are more something that's like, a one-off, because there are also these kind of frequent requests coming in from different departments that we're in proximity to, whether that's Office of Violence Prevention or Department of Parks and Rec or Department of Health Services, Mental Health Services. There's many, many different departments, that are often collaborating or have these kind of singular requests that, orgs might be asked to go ahead and step in at any point. And then I think that the other part was answered, but just in case, the partnership agreement is the site service agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're moving into the relationship, with the specific site, that site service agreement is going to list everything from, it's all the dosage basically, right? Like you're at San Angelo Park, the program is going to take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 6, and then X date is culmination, and then you're both signing off on that.
Right, and I'll repeat that we're doing the matchmaking in this. So Arena would be the one reaching out to you. Are you available for San Angelo Park or something like that? Michael McCartney, what parks are scheduled to be utilized, if any? Is there any list, any specific times and days? That information is included in the RFP. There's a list of the sites that we're currently at, and it can be 7 days a week. Again, the matchmaking process will be part of that. Steph asks, can CBOs bill for programming from 10/1 contract start date? Yes. So once a contract starts and you have service agreements for the instructional services, at the end of the month, you'll be able to submit an invoice for services that did occur, and we'll be able to pay you out for that. Bonnie, we answered Bonnie's questions about security. Linda asks, our proposal requires theater auditorium access. Are there appropriate sites? Arena.
Oops, sorry about that. I would say that there are a couple sites in particular that are more, geared or able to deliver in that respect, but I would definitely say it is not all sites. And maybe one thing that I would encourage if I could is that you think about how those different kinds of art forms can exist with, the resources that are there. And I think that like a lot of the orgs that have been present thus far have, really kind of push the envelope to, be able to help students understand like what it means to, for lack of a better word, to be like very like DIY and resourceful and figure out how to do things, even if they may not have like the proper kind of equipment or whatever.
Great. Joel Valier asks, do you provide the sites we are going to work for? Yes, that is the matchmaking. Leslie Friedman, it sounds like matches are based on what activities parks request. Is this correct? That's part of the equation. Certainly. We do want, Arena, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but we want the youth engaged in things that they're interested in.
Yeah, no, I would echo that. I mean, I think that it's just it's super, super important for them to feel like their voices are being heard, and that might even, maybe one little thing that I'll add is that means also being able to come into a site and being really flexible. And yeah, there's been some really amazing success stories like recently, things that have happened where I just feel like the artists were very nimble, and even when it was frustrating, they were able to shift gears and help the youth get more engaged.
Great. Krithi asks, should our budget reflect what we need in order to offer programming at one site? In that way, you will be able to determine how many sites you can match us with based on our budget per site. So we're setting the rates here. So the part of the matchmaking process would be to price out how much per session this is going to cost. We'll be able to pay you for each session. So in that way, we're not asking for a budget for your programming. We are setting those rates. I hope that's clear. Hector Sharia. Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody. We missed the solicitation requirements review deadline. Are we still eligible to apply? Yes. So the solicitation requirements review is a process in which if an organization or a proposer believes that the minimum requirements are not in line with what has been asked for services, they can submit a review with a justification that the minimum requirements need to be changed. So if you didn't do that, not a problem at all. You can still apply. Everything is still open for all organizations. Jazzy asked the same thing. Bonnie asks, will there be on-site storage available at parks to house supplies or equipment? Arena.
Yes, there is, though I would definitely say that it is dependent on the site. Some sites have more than others. Some sites are going through a lot of construction. And so definitely thinking about that beforehand, how you're bringing the most that you need, within reason, I would definitely encourage.
Great. Susie Tanner asks, our org is a certified small business with a fiscal sponsor. Are we eligible to apply? Yes. A repeat of Hector's question. We're good. Susie Tanner also asks, we have served both youth in a continuation high school, youth in county arts high school, and youth in adult prison in LA, youth in prisons. Youth in prison is considered age up to 24. Does that qualify for the program? It sounds like you've been serving youth. Arena, I don't see any reason that wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I agree as well.
Arena, do all parks have indoor facilities?
Currently, they do. The only thing that I would mention, which this hasn't happened in a minute, but sometimes the weather, I would say, you know, depending on which area you're in, can shift things significantly. And then if there's a surge, a COVID surge, again, that has not, you know, even though, I mean, technically we're in a surge right now, I think that, you know, things look a little bit differently, but there are some sites that, especially if there are a large concentration of elders, they might move them, you know, to certain locations.
Great. Then it says, where can we find a list of current contractors? We haven't published a list of current contractors. Bunny Hall asks, may I ask the aggregate amount available for these programs? Larry. I'll include Larry here. There is this will change year to year. This is based on funding provided by the JJCC. Right now, I believe it is around $4 million this year in funding that is available for communities work. Am I correct, Larry?
That is correct.
Okay. Lacey Flippin asks, is an organization still eligible if they have their own site, i.e. art museum, ceramic studio, Larry, or arena?
Yes. Yeah, there are a number of organizations that have a brick and mortar and ones that don't and have never had a brick and mortar that do services in communities.
Jose Hernandez, can the arts coordinator and project manager be existing staff? Absolutely. Yep, this is another place where organizations can make their own decision about how to manage themselves best. Hector Chara, I'm sorry. If we are matched with multiple sites, can we have more than one coordinator, one for each site? This is a good question. And the way this will work is that the coordinator will be assigned for each class. The coordinator, in addition to teaching artists, will be on site for each session that is taught. So if you're teaching in more than one park, yes, you're going to need more than one coordinator. Teaching in more than one at the same time, you'll need more than one. Let's see. Jessica Just, will this be outside, no access to power or classroom? I think Arena answered that, but do you want to provide any additional clarification?
Sure, we don't currently have any sites, I think, that are only outside. So it's kind of the opposite of the other question that was being asked. I think what's a possibility is if there are certain activities that you would like to do outside, that's definitely a possibility.
Great. And then Parkinson's iPhone says, are sole proprietor eligible to apply? It is, the RFP does distinguish organizations. We are not, we have not defined organization exactly. So my advice is, if you're interested in this and you believe that you can meet the requirements that are listed in the scope of work and able to deliver those services, apply. Tell us how you're going to do that. Ms. Key, for the required insurance, do we have to add each park site as additionally insured? No, you'll add the County of Los Angeles as additionally insured, and that will cover all of the sites. You may have answered, Alan asked you, you probably answered this already. How many spots are you hoping to fill? We don't know the answer to that yet. It will be part of our evaluation process, looking at our capacity and what the organizations who have applied. But I know Arena or Larry, I'll speak. You can maybe speak to this if it's more, if you have something else. But looking to keep the services that are going at the current level for the next little while. And Arena, how many services are happening a week in the communities? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Total?
Yeah.
I should. I absolutely should. But I do not. Yeah, especially because I
Yeah,
think it changes so often.
it does. Yeah,
Summer is completely different than last summer did than spring did. So yeah.
Ballpark?
what is it, maybe 40, 50 per week?
Yeah.
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 And I would say on the high end, like last summer, for example, then I would double that.
So summer's a lot.
Yeah, summer is very, very busy. So especially for the new folks, you come in prepared.
Uh, Terry, Iago, Ryan, from Fresh Films, we have been serving high school youth and young adults 18 to 24 in schools and community centers, Boys and Girls Clubs, and Best Buy Teen Tech Centers throughout LA County since 2010, but our national nonprofit is not incorporated in the state of California. But we are qualified to do business in the state, confirming that you are okay to apply. Yes, we don't have any geographical restrictions on this. Also, everybody, if I missed your question through scrolling through these questions, just repost it. I'm sorry. But we're almost to the end here. Please confirm the coordinator must be on site every time the class is in session. Yes, that is part, coordinator is part of the teaching team that will be on site. Terriago, Ryan, will there be a point of contact assigned at each site to serve as the care custody of participants separate from our teaching artists, etc., and their role to serve the youth? Arena?
Yes, each site always has staff point of contact, and I would say it's ultimately one person, but it often ends up being, you know, a small group just because the nature, I think, of working with growing people.
Great. Erica Sable Flores says, assuming there will be one manager per contract regardless of the number of sites. Yeah, we need one kind of contact with the organization to work through the administration so that it is happening in a kind of smart and organized way. And that will be determined as, if you look through the RFP, there's a sheet that will appoint somebody from your organization as the primary contact. Lucia Torres, would we be able to determine who the participants, who are participants of programming? For example, only young women, gender expansive youth, only LGBTQIA youth, etc. Arena.
So love this question. We also cannot, to my my understanding, what we could do, and this has definitely occurred in other classes as well, is we can center. You know, there's definitely a way of saying like this class or this workshop is centered, you know, but everyone is welcome to come. However, I would share that within the TPI projects, which is, you know, separate pool of funds, there was at least, no, there were two different, hold on one sec. There were two projects that that definitely fit this question a bit more. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense.
And this would also be part of the matchmaking process, looking for orgs who, if that's the programming that Parks and the location is requiring, we're going to look for an organization that has skills in those specific topics.
And maybe can I just say one more thing about that since
Go
you're
for it.
that, you know, again, I think emphasizing the experience that you already have in working and or being a part of those specific communities, that obviously is better for the panelists to be able to see.
Great. Let's see. Is there a cap on the number of students per activity workshop that the org we can determine, or can the org determine that? Arena?
Yeah, I would say that most of the sites do kind of try to cap, at least in my experience. I'm not sure. Another org here may have had different experiences, but I would say like when it gets somewhere like even a little bit under 16 to 18, it just becomes very difficult to give anyone, one-on-one attention and focus. So a possibility is to create a second workshop, right? Those would happen. Typically, it's best for them to happen back to back, right? So that then you're not just at the site all day long, basically. But that's kind of one possibility. And then maybe another thing I should mention is depending on what kind of form it is, something like a dance class, there have been dance classes in the past that they were huge. They were pretty large classes, but it worked, because I think the specific kind of dance that people were doing.
Great. And I'll point out that this was scheduled to go to 12:15. We're going to keep going as long as there are questions, and this is going to be recorded. But if people need to drop off, we want to respect their time, and they certainly can do that. And we'll post the entire recording so that people can catch up with it if they need to. And then Derek Spiva asks, where do we find the list of current sites? And you can find that in the RFP itself. It is in section 6 of the scope of work. How many students are there per class? I think Irina just answered that. It varies. Jessica just says will we be only be going to a site once, or will we be able to provide multi-week lessons to the same students for a period of time? Irina.
I think that multi-week lessons are definitely a possibility, but I would also say that, especially as you're acclimating to the site, it's really important to be, kind of thinking about like, yeah, what's the best way to build a relationship? I think that relationship building and like slow relationship building is really important in this work. So it might look something like, 1 hour a week at first, or possibly, 2 1-hour sessions, something like that.
Great. Jackie asks, I think you answered this question, but our artist teachers are contractors, not employees. Is that okay? For this programming, all people who are working on this contract need to have an employer-employee relationship, and this doesn't have to be a full-time employment relationship. It can be part-time. It can be however the organizations want to arrange it, but it has to be an employee-employer relationship. Jessica Just, how long are the sessions? Usually ours are 1.5 to 2 hours long. Irina.
That's perfect. I would say somewhere in that range is great. Some of them, again, as I was just saying, they could be an hour, just depending on, what else is happening at the site. And then, of course, groups that are very established, I think in the areas where they're at, some of those sessions might go longer.
Al says, as far as compliance, what would you say are the top areas? I'm not sure exactly what that question means. I would say, I'm gonna hazard a guess here and say that if you're wondering about compliance with the contract requirements, I would say just review the RFP and the scope of work, which details pretty much all of the things that we're going to require as part of the contract. Bunny Hall asks, if, for example, we have participating artists that live in certain areas, can that be part of the criteria for matchmaking? Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing. That would be part of the discussion between, in this case, Irina and the organization to find out availability. And geographic is part of that equation. iPhone says, I'm an independent artist and I've taught with SNL and currently teaching artists at seven parks. I do not have a fiscal sponsor. I know you said we can apply without one, but however, my question is, can you give an example of how we can explain that or how can we better articulate that part? Not knowing your organization and kind of what the services you're delivering, I can't give you any advice here. Larry, I don't know if you want to jump in here, but I think it's do the best you can to make sure we understand the depth and breadth of your work.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, for anyone else out there that is an individual artist, we're not deterring you from apply, still apply. But piggyback on what Brandon said, just really just explain the type of services and your experience. And again, if you're going to be working with any other artists or any other staff, goes back to what we talked about, artist safety, training, how are you going to provide those services for your staff as well?
Great. Reginald Johnson, can orgs have a cohort style or have to open to different participants every session? Arena?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I love this question because I think that there are a couple organizations present that do this really well. So, there's been encouragement and actually if you do something through Our Spot, which is the main kind of after school program that is at the parks, it's the more regularly occurring one. So the sites that you see listed are most likely those are called Our Spot sites. But yeah, since they sign up beforehand, I feel like it makes it a little bit easier to do something like a cohort style. And then since you brought this up, Reginald, I would just say that super important for everyone to consider how there might be different participants in every session. And so if that's a concept that is new to you, I would think about spending a little bit of time thinking about scaffolding. So scaffolding is what we call that particular type of style of facilitation.
Great. Where will you post the recording for us to review, refer to afterwards? That will get posted on our website as an addendum to the RFP. And here I will drop that link into the chat. That will get posted later this week. Hold on. Latrice has the same question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Times and hour scheduling, only on Saturday or every day, morning or afternoon. Arena?
We currently do not have anything that takes place on Saturday. I would say that that's kind of more community engagement or a PAD, a Parks After Dark. It's not a part of this body of work, but within institutions as well, there are sometimes Saturday. Most of the sites are also not going to have morning, just so you all are aware. If that's the only time that you can program, I would say for community, it's not really it's not a great fit.
Rebecca asks, how many weeks do programs typically run at each site? Is it year round? Are sessions aligned with the school year?
Yeah, I would say that most people opt to do somewhere between a 12 to 16 week series. Depending on the org, there are some that, also do something like what I would call is it feels more like a residency kind of experience, or it's like an expedited production, like especially if there's something like a larger project or a mural that you're working on. Those can sometimes be 8 to 10 weeks. So it's really it's up to you, I think. But yes to year round. And they do try to align Our Spot with the school year as much as is possible, except I would say that there's also heavy emphasis, for us within Youth Development and Arts Ed Collective to, as our as our I believe Denise is not here, but Denise would often say, she's our division director, that the goal is to make sure that every youth has access to healing centered arts engagement. So just want to emphasize that that includes folks who are systems impacted and maybe going through, you know, reentry or different kinds of challenges.
Great. All right. And this is the last question from Letty Whitlock. Do we need to provide health benefits to the employees? This is, again, one of the things that your organization has agency to handle. It may make sense for some organizations, but this is also how you determine what you're paying your teaching artist coordinators, all of that. So we are not going to specify that. We do hope that you, again, are treating all of the employees, teaching artists, project managers, and coordinators fairly and compensating them at a rate that is in line with the work they are doing. All right, this is it. I'll turn it back to you, Larry.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Brandon, Irina, other staff. I did see other arts and culture staff here. Thank you all for participating, hanging in there, listening to the questions and answer. Hey, Heather, how are you? That's Heather, our deputy director. Good, thank you. So, guys, remember, you're going to have questions after. If you come up with any questions, please let us know. Remember, write to their email. I believe we can put that email back in the chat. Dev at arts.lacounty.gov. And remember, we will post those questions as well. So thank you guys so much. Good to see some of you all again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.